Welcome to Friends and Fiction. 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories. Novelists Mary Kay Andrews, Kristin Harmel, Kristy Woodson Harvey, and Patti Callahan Henry are 4 longtime friends with more than 70 published books between them. Together, they host Friends and Fiction, with author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, to highlight and support independent bookstores. They discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Friends and Fiction Show. I am Patti Callahan Henry.
I'm Kristin Harmel.
And this is Friends and Fiction. 4 New York Times bestselling authors, only 2 of us right here, endless stories to support indie bookstores, authors, and librarians, and of course, readers like you.
Absolutely. If you are not with us already, we hope you will join our Facebook group, which is now more than 290,000 members strong. Can you believe it, Patti? I feel like we keep watching.
I can't wait to say 300.
I know. I feel it's coming. It's growing so fast. We would also like to invite you to follow us on Instagram and YouTube and to subscribe to our Substack newsletter, which is full of awesome bonus content. You can find out more about our community and all we have to offer at friendsandfiction.com.
So now we're going to get talking about our episode tonight because it's incredible. We are so excited to welcome our friends, Christina Baker Kline and Burt, to discuss their newest novel, Please Don't Lie, co-authored together, which is set to be released on September 1st. So we're getting a sneak peek interview. I am going to give you some background on Christina. She is the number one New York Times bestselling author of several novels, including The Exiles, Orphan Train, and A Piece of the World. Her novels have been published in 40 countries and have received the New England Prize for Fiction, the Maine Literary Award, Barnes & Noble Discover Award, among many others.
Her essays, articles, and reviews have appeared in publications such as the New York Times and the New York Times Book Review, the Washington Post, the San Francisco, Patti, we cannot talk today. The San Francisco
Coffee, please.
Hub, Psychology Today, and Slate, and I officially need more coffee.
I know. So Christina was born in Cambridge, England, which it sounds, I love saying that. It sounds so fancy, and I wish I could say that. And was raised there as well as the American South and Maine. She is a graduate of Yale, Cambridge, and the University of Virginia. She lives in New York City and Southwest Harbor, Maine, where she is talking to us today with her husband, and they have 3 adorable sons.
Anne's debut novel, Anne's debut novel, The Dig, was a March 2023 American Booksellers Association Indie Next Pick and the Strand Bookstores Mystery Selection of the Month. Anne is also the editor of My Father Married Your Mother, Dispatches from the Blended Family, and co-editor, along with Christina, of About Face, Women Write About What They See When They Look in the Mirror.
No, thank you. I don't want to write about that. Her essays and fiction have appeared in numerous publications and venues, including Salon, NPR, the Christian Science Monitor. She's a past winner of Meridian's Editor's Prize in Fiction and graduated from Yale in 1989 with a BA in history and from NYU with an MFA in creative writing. She lives in Weston, Connecticut and New York City.
Together, Christina and Anne co-authored the atmospheric and propulsive new thriller, Please Don't Lie, which is set to be released on September 1st.
Wow. Okay. So we had a lot to say about them because they are both such prolific and award-winning authors. But now it's time to stop talking about them and talk to them. So Greg, can you bring Christina and Anne on, please?
Hi, ladies.
Hey, ladies.
Hello.
We are so delighted to have you on the Friends and Fiction Show. You've both been on the show individually. So this is thrilling to have you on together to talk about this novel and about co-authoring, which is blow my mind. So I'd actually want to start there. So Christina, I want to know, before we dive into the book, Who said it first? Who said, it's like asking a couple at a shower, who said, I love you first? Who said, let's write a book together? Tell us how this all came about, because I am fascinated about how you made that decision.
Thank you so much, first of all, for having us on, Patti and Kristin. We're delighted to be here. It's really fun to be doing this together. I mean, besides the fun of writing the book, Anne and I have also discovered that it's just kind of half the work and double the fun to be able to promote it together and do events together. Okay, so I think we might have different answers. We'll have to see. But my answer would be that Anne and I became friends in Marceau, New Jersey. We both had moved there. She was from Brooklyn, had been living in Brooklyn. I'd been living on the Upper West Side, which is a typical path in our area that you often then end up having children and moving to a suburb. I think I was doing an event at our local bookstore, Watchung Books, and Anne came and introduced herself. And we've never sort of stopped talking since. Oh. We were both pregnant. We didn't know it at the time, but we had children, my third and her first, a week apart, I think, or 2 weeks.
Wow.
Very, very close together in age. And we were pushing those strollers together, talking about books. We joined a book club at the same time, the same book club that we're still in, even though now we're both still in this book club in Montclair. We then also were in the same writing group, an amazing group of 15 women who write fiction and nonfiction and supported each other through all the changes in the industry that we all know quite a lot about. And then just very quickly, I'll tell you, we started to collaborate. We did that nonfiction book about face. We collaborated on a podcast. We collaborated on, I was pulled into a project doing a Hollywood working on a pilot, and Anne very graciously joined me because I knew it would be really fun to do together. And we just discovered that the writer's room feeling of Hollywood which by the way, it's a totally normal thing for people to write together in that, but not so much writing a novel. So we just took our writer's room experience, 3 months of working on that project, and brought it to this novel idea. And just super quickly, I think the way it started was that I had been asked to submit an idea for a podcast for a story. And Anne and I came up with this idea in a weekend, and our agent was like, are you sure you want to give away the rights to that idea? Because it's actually really interesting. And that's what became our novel, Please Don't Lie.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Long story, but that's how we
realize it started with the serial podcast idea and turned into the novel. And we talk a lot on here about where ideas come from. And this idea that you might start with one thing, and if you're really rigid and you believe it only has to be that thing, it might not become what it was meant to be. And if you had been really rigid about that, it would have stayed that instead of becoming this incredible novel. Thank you for that reminder and for sharing it, because sometimes I get, well, that's not the idea I had. I wanted it to be this, when we have to be open to letting it be something new. So that's amazing.
And what I love about it is it feels so organic. I mean, you've known each other for so long. This wasn't something where you were both, it was a contrived thing. This feels like it came about very naturally. And I think that is very much reflected in the book too.
I'll just say one more thing, which is that I think the lesson for people who might be interested in collaborating or who have a friend that they really sort of feel a creative spark with is that Anne and I were really open to many different ways of collaboration. And we tried things, they didn't all work out. We have a number of ideas that are in our bank that we haven't yet played out. And it just was like, how can we work together? We know we work well together. We're not quite sure what the form will be. We still imagine we might end up going to Hollywood one day and writing in a real writer's room together. Yeah. But, who knows? But we are very open to lots of, I would say, would you say, Anne?
Absolutely. I mean, this is why it's gone on so long. This is the perfect venue for us to have this conversation, friends and fiction. You too, with, with Kristy and Mary Kay, are actualizing exactly what Christina and I are talking about in your format. And isn't it sparkly? Isn't it more fun when you are just playing off of each other's ideas?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, exactly.
One idea leads to
One idea
another.
leads to another.
Yep.
And that's exactly how we progressed through this novel. You know, each of us, really interesting, have a very different solo writing voice than the voice we've discovered together in this book. And we've started referring to it as our third voice. You know, it has its own, right? But that really came from a lot of what Christina was talking about with 25 years of backstory. We've layered into creating that third voice, not just the kind of collaborative drafting and writing that we did for Please Don't Lie, which was extensive. I mean, Christina and I sat across from each other at one or the other of our tables and read these drafts out loud to each other. Multiple times. And that's how we really were sure that there was a real voice for this book and the characters were speaking. And that really came out of not just writing, but also 25 years of walking and talking, of seeing movies together, of reading similar books and going deep and thinking about it. And also now, the constant text stream that we have going on. You know, one of us will wake up and if the other one didn't sleep well that night, we'll be like, oh no, there are 40 texts.
Yeah.
Roll through. I had another idea, or, you know.
We have the same text string. And sometimes I wake up and I'm like, what did I miss?
Yes, it's like every little thought that bubbles into our head. But I love that. And, you know, I feel like when I was reading this book, I kept forgetting that it was written by two people. Like it came together so well. It did feel like one distinctive singular voice, which is incredible. You did such a great job. It's like the dream project.
That was what we wanted. We were really determined that every word would feel authentic to both of us. That's why and Anne actually has a secret skill. She could be like a famous audiobook reader because she has such a great reading voice. So I always made her do the reading out loud because her voice I'm so bad. I am so bad. That's why I don't like to give readings. I will talk your ear up, but I'm a terrible reader. So Anne is a great reader, and it just made the whole experience really fun to have this like professional style reader doing her.
Well, thank you. You know how we all have like these secret other careers that, you know, if I wasn't a writer, ... that's one of mine.
Yeah.
That's what you
love that.
One time, she was on a train one time, and like a producer said, "Would you ever be interested in doing this for a career?"
Oh my gosh. That's really funny. All right. I want to dig into actually talking about this book because I know people are going to want to know all about it. So Please Don't Lie, which is such a great title for a book about a woman named Haley Stone who has lost everything. Now, first her parents died in a devastating fire, and then her sister overdosed, leaving Haley alone and hounded by a media circus that has turned her family's tragedy into tabloid fodder. When her new husband suggests a fresh start in the Adirondacks, the promise of anonymity in an isolated mountain town feels like salvation. But the mountains hold darker secrets than she ever could have imagined. And as winter edges closer, I'm like getting goosebumps talking about it.
I know.
Haley discovers that she is trapped and isolated, and she faces a terrifying truth. In trying to escape her past, she may have run straight into something far more dangerous. So that's a little bit about what the book is about. But Anne, can you tell us what it is really about?
So we have been fascinated about for years about the questions of like, how well do you really know the people in your life? You think you know people and, you know, you do, but there's this sort of dangerous space between truth and deception that you can just be living through and not seeing until it's too late. So for us, the psychological thriller genre and these characters we created became a source of kind of opportunity to examine that in marriage, in friendships, in sibling relationships. You know, we wanted to play with all of these things with our characters and really dive deep into some of the kind of darker places in the human psyche that just felt like they belonged in this story. That was really important to us. So that's one. And then quickly, one other that emerged out of our shared fascination with certain cultural trends, I think. One of those that came into this book was women relying on self-help as a means to push forward in their lives. This is a great and important genre. You know, this is something that really is like that line between truth and deception, right? It can give you the spark of great truth and great recognition, but it can also lead you down a pathway that before you realize it, you've adhered to somebody else's version of the truth and you're not sure where you are anymore. We added that into Please Don't Lie, and it became a very important part of the book.
You know what
go ahead, Kristy.
No, you go ahead, Patti.
I was just going to say, I loved that part because the other thing, and you tap on it in there, in those self-help books, is the like little sound bites, whether you see them on Instagram or a quote put somewhere, and then you're like, that's the answer. No, that's the answer. No, that's the answer. And all of them are actually influencers, and all of them are actually trying to sell their program and their books. And so, yes, they're helpful, but you've tapped into kind of the darker side of that. And I love that you pinged that part of what it's really about. I love that.
Yeah.
And when I was, sorry.
I was saying the cultural critique that we love to do. And I was just going to quickly say, someone came into my feed the other day who was sort of debunking the idea of the purpose-driven life. In other words, saying we get all this stuff from influencers about how your job has to have meaning for you.
Oh, that was Kate Ballard. I love her stuff.
Oh my God, she was great. I'd never seen her before, but I was like,
I follow her. Her big book is Everything Happens for a Reason and Other Lies I've Been Told.
Yes, I guess that's
great.
Right. And I loved that critique of that idea. It was really smart. And I think Anne, and in the book we're writing now as well, we are kind of taking on some stuff in the zeitgeist, in the cultural moment, and trying to look at the other sides of it. Yeah.
Right. And I think in doing that, I love the word cultural critique, because it's not just a critique. It allows us to say, oh my gosh, am I doing that? Like, do this. I love the cultural hilarity around what we should be doing in middle age. Like, eat enough protein, wear a weighted vest. And then these women come on trying to eat protein and do farces on it, because as much as there's truth in it, we can also laugh at the absurdity of the whole self-help industry while also using what helps. Okay, I'm going to get back to the book. So the twists and turns are crazy. Just when I think I know what's going on, I get turned around, which I love, because it takes me out of my own life, and I'm taking a hard right over here. Did you plot it all at once? I know you had text strings and brainstorming, and did you know how it would end before you even started writing? You first, Christina.
Okay. So what we did is, we had this great idea, as I told you, and our agent was like, I think this is a great idea. So we decided we were going to follow it through. So we essentially wrote a screenplay. We wrote 120 pages.
I love that.
Outline together that had dialogue. It was like we wrote a very quick book in a way. And then wrote the first 3 chapters. And that's what we sold the book on. The outline, which was 60 single space pages, and then the 3 chapters. And so we did have a whole story, but we were new to this genre. This is our first thriller. And as we got into it and started reading a lot of thrillers too, we realized that there were all kinds of opportunities for us to do some more flashy or interesting things that we wanted to do with character. We ended up totally surprising ourselves. And I think that's the reason, honestly, that some people say they can figure it out, but most of people who seem to be reading it right now say there's something that surprised them, And we had an idea of what was going to happen. I mean, we had a plan, but actually as the story and the characters developed, that plan changed. And so we just had a great time kind of going back in and building in the little breadcrumbs and clues. I mean, we always do that. I write primarily fiction set in the past. These days, I do that there too, but it's a different process, isn't it? I mean, these chapters are very short. They're propulsive. They end on usually some kind of little moment. Yeah. So anyway, that would be my answer, I guess. And what do you think?
Yeah. What do you think?
No, I mean, everything that Christina said is exactly what the process of developing this was. I think I would add in terms of the twists and turns, that both the characters as we developed them told us more about what needed to happen in the book, but also really the plot too. Like we would come to a place and we started to realize we're like, okay, wait, hold on. There's a reason that we're stuck on this. And maybe it's not about the actual chapter itself. And it's not about what's happening right here. Maybe it's about what has to happen all the way at the end. And we're not seeing it as creatively as we could be. And that's when we dove into something that we now use as a shorthand between us, which is our yes and philosophy. So, from improv, yes. And if you're an actor and you're doing improv, somebody says, I'm on Mars, and somebody else says, yes. And I'm working at the cafeteria in Mars. And then the next person says, yes. And I'm roller skating, and everybody has to go with it or the whole thing falls apart. Christina and I took that and we've turned it into our working process. And it works especially well for these moments when you're like, maybe it's not twisty enough, or maybe that twist that we think is outrageous and we could never do that. Well, let's play it out and see. And that's how a lot of what ended up in the book was through that idea of, as collaborators, if we say yes and instead of one of us saying, wait, my mind isn't working that way. We ended up in a lot of stopping places when either one or the other of us said, my mind, ouch, it hurts, right? And then we learned to just be like, yes, and let's see how it goes. And that was a huge part of our process.
Super huge. That to me is the key. There are several key important things that if you want to ever collaborate with someone. The first is, I think you have to have complete and utter respect for the other person. As much as you respect yourself, you have to believe that, number one, that they're working as hard as you are and that they care as much as you do. We both, in fact, Anna and I try to impress each other. We're like the good kids in school. We're like, I'm doing this now for us and I'm working on that. And we're, it's very fun. And it feels very lovely that we both know we're 100% in. And the yes and thing is just like, I trust that even if I don't understand yet what Anne might be proposing, that she's so smart and I'm going to get there. It's like, it's just kind of like, what is the bridge I need to understand that or to get to that place? And then it stretches us, both of us, in different ways, which is just
it probably stretches your work for your solo careers, for the books you're working on, which we're going to get to before the end. So,
yeah, super fun.
I wanted to ask you quickly about a couple of the characters. And, Patti and I think we're thinking there are so many interesting characters to dive into here. But if we dive too deeply into some of them, spoilers are going to start coming out. As you just mentioned, there's so much about this book that's character driven. So I wanted to ask you about two specific characters that are less integral to the plot. So, Christina, Haley has a best friend named Emily. So this is a character who's known Haley for years and understands Haley's life and personality the way that only a dear friend can, the way you probably, both of you, understand each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's the only one who seems willing to speak the truth to Haley. And I think it's rare to have a friend who will do that for you. And in fact, go so far that she's putting her friendship on the line in many ways, so to speak this truth. So can you tell us a little bit about Haley and how she came to be?
Haley or Emily?
Are you talking about Emily or Haley?
I'm so sorry, Emily.
Sorry.
Yeah. We can talk about both, but
sorry, Emily, I meant. My apologies.
No, we lived in New York, as I said, and we now live again in New York. Both of us know a lot of people like Emily, who is a truth teller. We both have friends who are like that. I'm not sure either of us are exactly like Emily, but you're lucky to have an Emily in your life because she is no BS. She's just completely going to say what's on her mind. One of the joys of writing this book, and one of the things we both really love to do, and one of the things we look for example, in television series that we love to chat about, watch together or chat about afterwards, is really strong secondary characters. So in this novel, we have Cheryl, who's a really strong personality. We have Emily, who's a really strong. Megan, of course, is a really strong personality. It's like that was just a joy to develop these characters so you can almost, when I think of the book, I see them visually. I see these people visually. And Emily was very important to our story because she is the only one who's known Haley since way before the world of the book. Actually, no one else in our book really has known Haley that long. So we have this central character who's mourning, and she's sad about what's happened to her. She's trying to make a new start, but Emily gives us insight as readers into who she really is.
Yeah. Another great thing about Emily is Emily, as a lot of the secondary characters do, connects to a place that is important in Haley's journey, and that's New York City. So Emily is also the person who forces Haley to think about, what have I left behind? What have I looked forward to? What do I want? What did I used to want, but maybe no longer want? And sometimes Haley gets it right. And then sometimes, and again, no spoilers, she gets it wrong. But Emily is that person who prods her from the New York piece of her life, because part of what this journey is she has taken herself out of everything that she's created to live in this remote mountain town in the Adirondacks where her husband grew up, and has placed herself in this completely foreign environment. Emily's the one who comes into the picture and says, where are you? Who are you, Haley?
Yes, absolutely.
What are you doing here? What is this crazy new life? And so that's a really good.
And are you being honest with yourself about it?
Yeah, totally.
It's the antidote to the self-help.
But you also don't know. I mean, Emily's got some stake in the game too. She's sad that Haley left New York. Everybody's got their own agenda in this story too.
And she doesn't trust her husband, and he doesn't trust her. Trust her.
I love it. It's such a great dynamic. All right. Speaking of secondary characters who really jump off the page, tell us about the nosy neighbor, the one who bakes pies and is bitter about something we don't know about until later in the story. So can you tell us a little bit about her and how you came to flesh her out?
Sure, do you absolutely. So Cheryl Snyder is a local orchard owner who has a stand at the farmer's market. And the farmer's market is another very important piece of our atmosphere in Crystal River, which is the town we imagine in the Adirondacks. And Cheryl is one of these stalwarts of this town that Christina and I created together. We had so much fun. Like, we made each other laugh so hard. And also we creeped each other out a little bit too in Crystal River in this remote mountain. And Cheryl is a character, both of us know towns like this and places like this. And so we could create this together. And we knew that Cheryl was that kind of person. She has been there forever. She holds all the secrets of this town in the past. She has not even one chip on her shoulder. She has about 60 chips on her shoulder. Yeah, no, she's rested chips. Okay. So she comes in with all of them. And so every time I love her because every time Cheryl is on the page, people have extreme reactions to her because she's abrasive. I mean, she's a different kind of truth teller than Emily. Sometimes Emily comes in with a truth that both Haley and the reader stop and go, oh yeah. When Cheryl comes in with her truths, people are like, please leave. And real personality too. So we love her as a secondary character because everything she leaves in her wake is a little bit more chaotic than it was when she got there.
Yes.
Right. She's a chaos agent. Emily is a truth teller. So you've got these wonderful characters who are stirring things up, and it just creates a disequilibrium in the story so that you're never quite sure when those two are around, what's going to happen or what's going to come out, which was just a super fun thing for us. We have because we created what they call a closed room story, meaning there are really 4 characters in this story.
Yeah.
So when you have these characters come in from the outside, everything gets turned upside down.
Yeah.
And that's just a really fun.
I recently taught a craft class for Thriller Fest, which is, a big New York City based annual place for thriller writers and wannabe thriller writers. And it was called The Art of the Slow Burn. And one of the things that we talked about in this craft class so much was the use of secondary characters and how important it is that they both mirror aspects of your main characters, but also create obstacles for your main characters. And the best ones do both at the same time. And I feel like that was part of the fun together of creating that dynamic. So, there's another great writing tip for people who are interested. Your secondary characters is both.
Full of writing tips today. This is awesome.
I was going to say, I feel like this is one of the best craft conversations.
I know. I feel like I should be taking notes. My goodness.
I actually just did.
My book right now. I'm like, will help. That'll help.
I actually just did. But also, I think what I love that you played with, whether you did it on purpose or not, is that you played with archetypes, the chaos maker, the truth teller, there's the trickster. I'm not going to give away who it is. Like there are so many archetypes populating. Yep. I love that. All right. I want to talk a little bit about how this might have changed you, because any relationship, friendship, romantic, co-writing, I think changes us. I also believe that every book changes us in some way. Mm-hmm. How did co-writing a thriller shape or reveal your personal obsessions, your preoccupations, your solo writing career? And I want to start with you. Tell me how you feel like this book changed you in some ways, or your writing.
That is such a great question. I feel like, let's break out the bottle of wine and really.
I know. This is a whole show. I know.
But this is seriously a wonderful question, because that's true. And I think that is true with writing any work, especially of the long works that novels are. You just don't always recognize yourself as a writer, or sometimes as a thinker or a person, exactly in the same way when you're done with it as you did in the beginning. And when we're doing it together, it actually was that was one of maybe the greatest joys for me. Like, I've known Christina for 25 years. I feel like, Christina, I know you in a much deeper way now, and in a way that just feels unique to all of my other friendships and relationships, because we've tapped into something that is so powerfully both about friendship, but about something different. Like we've found a language together about not just writing and the work on the page, but also about those obsessions that each of us have. And it's like a safe place to actually say, you know what, I've always actually been obsessed with, and to not be afraid that it's going to sound juvenile or embarrassing or any of those things, because it feeds into this well that we're working with together of actual dark truths. And I will say one more thing, which is that a part of the fun of my friendship with Christina all the time is that, how sometimes like sees like in certain ways with friendships. We've always both shared this sort of like dark sense of humor and kind of approach to the world. And we've now found with writing psychological thrillers, the perfect venue to take that as far, I think, as we could possibly take it. And doing it together has made me, I think, actually accept that part of my own personality more easily and readily, instead of fighting against it.
Using it.
Yeah, I think that's
using
right.
it. How about you, Christina?
So, Patti, you and Kristin, of course, you both know this. When you write certain books and maybe one takes off, you then become pigeonholed a little bit, right? In the kind of books that people expect from you. And Anne and I, so, as I mentioned, the screenplay stuff, I've always been interested in other kinds of expression. Anne and I share a real high-low fascination in very similar ways that a lot of people don't have. One of my sisters is utterly contemptuous of any of my pop culture references or interests.
I'm going to silently guess which one. Okay, keep going.
Okay, yes, you can. But I totally have that. Anne totally has that. And it's always been a joyful thing for both of us. Like, we love going to certain movies together and dissecting them. And we have the same kind of, the way we knew we could work together is we have the same take oftentimes on a thing that other people might not share around us. Yeah. But I really wanted to do a different genre, and my publisher was not interested. And not only were they not interested, they're like, you're diluting your brand. This is a stupid idea. What are you doing? But we both were inspired by other writers who kind of paved the way of writing different kinds of stories and really even Stephen King is doing lots of different things these days. And so it gave us the confidence to do that. And our agent was just like, I love it. I think you should do this. In fact, I changed agents in part because I wanted to be at WME where they really accept the idea that there are lots of ways to express yourself. And I I think the opportunity to work together and to do this genre has been liberating for me, in part because I didn't want to get stuck in one idea of what my writing was. And this is such a freeing thing to do, and to do both. We can both do both. We can both do this and the other stuff that we're working
Christina,
on.
you made me braver when we were collaborating too. And a lot of that is because of just what you said was, you're an incredibly successful author in, a lane that is big and huge. And none of it was for you any kind of impediment to saying, no, I'm going to have beginner's mind in this genre. I'm going to bring everything, and you did. You're an amazing writer and thinker and craftsperson. And you opened up that, I'm a newbie. And I was like, great, me too. I'll be a newbie too. Let's be newbies together. And that was just a release that was a creative opportunity for both of us.
Well, I think that's maybe another secret for both of us, which is just that we are new to this genre together. So it's like a whole exploration.
Nobody's the expert. Yeah.
Part of what our ongoing text stream is like books, television, movies that are thrillers in different ways. We get all these ideas. It's just a really fun conversation that nobody else is interested in having with us except us.
And us.
And
everybody listening. Exactly.
Yes. All right. Well, ladies, I wanted to ask you briefly about your individual projects, because I know people are going to be very interested in that too. So, Christina, I'll start with you. I know you have a book coming out soon called The Foursome, which I know is remarkably based on your own distant relatives, which is so cool. So I would love for you, if you don't mind, I would love to hear a little teaser of the book, but then I would also like to hear one thing that you think you brought from the experience of working on this book into writing the new book. I would love to hear something that came from this that you think made it better.
Let me start with that because that I will forget. So my new novel is called The Foursome. I'll describe it in just a second. But what I brought from this book was what Anne was talking about earlier, which is that sense that big things, like, don't be afraid to make big things happen. In a thriller, usually someone has to die. That's a pretty big thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes as authors, we're protective of our characters and we don't want to put them through bad things. Of course, I write these books where I put my characters through bad things, but there were ways that writing the thriller just sort of upped the drama quotient in my new novel, I think. As you'll see, it comes out next May.
Okay.
And so I'll just quickly tell you in one sentence, my mother's great aunts were sisters in Civil War era North Carolina. And they married two men who happened to be among the most famous people in the world at the time, Chang and Eng Bunker, the original conjoined Siamese. They called themselves the Siamese twins. And they essentially were born in Thailand. Their mother kind of sold them into slavery. They bought their freedom. They ended up in North Carolina. They owned a plantation. They had 21 children. And my novel is the story from the perspective of the sort of plain, awkward sister who was coerced into marriage by her charismatic, beautiful sister. And it is based on a true family story. The sisters are my relatives, as I said. So it's a crazy
chills. I cannot wait to read this.
Yeah.
So,
Cannot wait. All right. And tell us a little bit about what you have coming up, because I know you have a novel.
Yeah. So I'm working on
and same thing. What did you bring to it from?
Yeah.
From
so my
this?
next novel that I'm in process of I have a draft finished and we'll turn back to it, is called The Feather Palace. And it's a return to some of the obsessions behind The Dig, which was my debut solo novel about.
I love that novel.
You.
You know, I love
you're
it.
so wonderful. About, family secrets that aren't even known to the next generation. It's not, I think it's so interesting. It's a generational novel. It actually is told, there are 4 sections and each one is from the point of view of somebody from a subsequent generation in 4 generations of the family. So it actually spans almost 100 years. And they're tied together by something that happened in 1897 that none of them actually know about. And so as a writer, I'm just so interested in how do you work with subsequent generations of characters who are basing their lives on misinformation or lack of information, but they believe fully that they are based on something true. So I can't get this. And the Feather Palace is called the Feather Palace because there used to be this really big trade that has gone in ostrich feathers. It was an international trade. If you ever watch The Gilded Age, you see those crazy hats with all of the feathers. That was a huge time in the world for this trade. My great grandfather came to this country from Lithuania as an ostrich feather broker. And then the entire industry fell flat for a bunch of cultural reasons, including World War I and style changing and automobiles meant that you couldn't have these feathers. And then the Audubon Society started out protecting birds. And they said, this is a travesty, the millinery. So I could go on and on. It's a fascinating little book. What I am taking as I write this from my collaboration with Christina, I think some things are totally intangible, but one of those is being braver, as I was saying before, really using that example. The other is focusing more overtly on plot, as we need to do in a thriller. And coming as both of us do from an MFA background, from a literary background, we were not taught how to make a plot. It was considered a little bit like kind of lowbrow to have to actually focus on plot. Now I feel completely differently about that. I feel much more like from our collaboration that I've learned that character, plot, and setting can be inextricably bound, and that I prefer it that way when I'm working.
Yeah.
So we had Jess Walter on recently, which I know you're both very familiar with. And Christina, I know you've heard him teach at Kauai. And I love that he, who has, is very literary, talks about the beautiful structure of plot and how we can spend all day talking about a beautiful sentence. And we all want to write one. I want to write one, right? I labor all day over a paragraph, but we also can't dismiss plot as lowbrow. There is a beautiful structure to trying to shape our plot around character motivation and desire. And I love that conversation. So to leave it out does a disservice to everyone. And thank you for coming to my TED Talk. All right. If you'll stick around, we have more to talk to you about. But first, Kristin and I have a few announcements we need to make. Kristin, take it away.
Absolutely. So for all of you watching and listening, we encourage you to rush out and buy your copies of Please Don't Lie. The perfect place to do that is in the Friends and Fiction shop on bookshop.org. You will not only be getting it at a discount, but all your purchases there support our show, our guests, and indie bookstores nationwide.
And don't forget to visit friendsandfiction.com for details on our show schedule. It's an incredible season we have coming up, upcoming in-person events, and links to our merchandise store, our Substack newsletter that Kristin is about to tell you more about, the award-winning Friends and Fiction official book club with Brenda and Lisa. Speaking of the book club, join them live on Zoom on Monday, September 15th at 7 p.m. for a discussion of a book called August Lane with author Regina Black. Now, What the book club does is spoilers. So it's an actual book club. Here, we do not do spoilers. So on September 15th, get caught up, read August Lane, and they will be having a book club.
We also want to say a happy 5th anniversary once again to the Friends in Fiction Official Book Club. They just celebrated the big weekend in Atlanta. They did a lot of fun things. We're very proud of them. So happy 5th anniversary to the book club. All right. Now, speaking of our Substack, you can read all our free weekly posts on the Substack website or app, or subscribe for free to get them directly to your inbox. And if you upgrade to our paid Substack, which costs just $5 a month, you will have access to deeper dives with all of our weekly show guests, such as Christina and Anne, plus monthly roundtable discussions like the 2 recent ones that our very favorite Meg Walker did on crime fiction and debut novels, plus bonus Q&As with additional authors like the recent ones we ran with David Roblewski, Daniel Kraus, Christine Pride, and Joe Piazza. If you enjoy tuning in for our weekly author interviews, this is a big way you can support us for about $1 each week. So check us out at friendsinfiction.substack.com. Oh, all right. Now back to you, Christina and Anne. Before we let you go, we wanted to ask you where we can catch you on the road, and will you also tell our community how to connect with you both online?
Christina, you go first.
Okay, you're waiting for instructions.
You're waiting. Sorry, I'm falling down on my job.
No, Anne and I, it's an unusual release. It's our publisher is Thomas and Mercer, and so we have hardcover, paperback, audio, and ebook releasing on the same day.
Oh my goodness!
I know, it's crazy, and it's very fun. And our hardcover, I don't have it in front of me, but it is so cool. The inside cover is like a scene, like the actual hard book. Oh, Anne will show you right now.
Oh, I only have the paperback.
So here's the dust jacket, right? Ready for this?
Yeah.
Right.
Dun, 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 dun. Ooh.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Isn't that
It's
great?
like
So anyway,
it's so
we love
pretty.
it.
Love it.
The book is available anywhere books are sold. And of course, you can do ebooks and whatever. We are going to be on tour. We're doing Maine, New York area, and then California. The best place to look is on our websites. My website is my name, ChristinaBakerKline.com, and events is there. But also, if you follow me on Instagram, it's just Baker Kline or my name, or follow Anne. We're going to, in the next few days, we'll have a card up with our tour schedule. And we're also doing a ton of podcasts and other kind of events like that, Zooms and things, virtual and in person. So, yeah.
And that's where we, and Anne, what about you?
So my Instagram handle is Anne Burt Writer with scores between Anne Burt and Burt Writer. So you can find me there. And you can also go to my website, which is AnneBurtWriter.com. That's all very straightforward. Both of us will have all of the things, and you can find each other. I mean, you can find the other one by going to one of ours. So we're linking all of our events and our stuff. Please, anybody who's in Maine, New Jersey, Connecticut, New York area, and
California, LA,
San Diego. Those are our big in-person appearances.
Perfect.
So, all right. What an absolutely fascinating conversation. This has been such a joy, and I feel like there's so much more to tap into, but we have run out of time, and you two have a book to release. So I'm going to let you go, but thank you for joining us. It was such a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks for being on the Friends and Fiction show.
Thank you both. It was so great to talk to you both.
It was really fun.
We really loved having you. So to all of you out there, be sure to tune in next week when Kristy and I will welcome the lovely Sarah McCoy to discuss her new novel, Whatever Happened to Lori Lovely. That show will air on the Friends and Fiction page and YouTube channel on Wednesday, September 3rd at 7 p.m. Eastern. And it will be published to our podcast for your listening pleasure on Friday, September 5th.
All right. Thanks to all of you for being here with us in the virtual world, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in. You can join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here.